and then they kind of might snap, or they might feel.
ずっと向こうで待ってたんだけど、ここにいたの。ここにいたんだけどさ。
分かんなかっ
どれくらい待った？
た。30分ぐらい。
じゃあシャワー入んなかったの今日？
入ったよ。
スティームだけ？スティームの、
シャワーだけ。
シャワーだけ？
うん。
じゃあスティーム入んなかったの？どうだった今日は？
大勢いたよ。
あ
白髪の先生だか
あ、ああ。挨拶した。
ら。
いや最初から最後までいたの。
いたよ。
忘れ物ない？
ない。
コーヒーカップ持ってきた。よかったね。だいぶ動くようになった。体がだいぶ歩けるようになった。
普通同じで。
お父さんくらい周りの人はあれかね、ドライブしてくるのかね、自分たちで。
それはそうで。
ああ、すごいね。それも80いくつで。
女性のおばさんが多いけどね。
運転すごいね。年で済んだね。
若いもんみんな。
お父さんくらいの人もいるよ。86、9。
60代ぐらいじゃない。
In American culture, dieting and exercise is a big deal, whether people realize it or not. That affects how they feel from a physical standpoint, and then it could affect how they feel mentally. So talk about that for a bit.
Sure, yeah. It's so funny. They say that if you could kind of encapsulate the neurobiological benefits of exercise, it would be the best-selling antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication of all time. So it's, as simple as 20 minutes a day of brisk walking can literally rewire your brain, can give you all of the neurotransmitters to help combat a lot of the cortisol and a lot of like the effects of toxic stress that people deal with in their life. But I think a lot of people don't want to hear that, right? Like I'd rather just pop a pill than exercise, and I definitely want convenient fast food. So a lot of this is, a lot of what I talk about is really developing systems that do work for people though. Like you can't just tell someone, like everyone knows you should exercise.
Yeah.
But it has to become part of your identity, first and foremost, of this is who I am. I'm a runner, so I run. I'm athletic. I'm a healthy person. And then just making it not painful, making it fun, making it collaborative, making it something that just becomes a routine in your day. And then just eating well. I don't go too much in that because it could be a whole nother book.
Yes.
But that definitely, food and wood is so underutilized in mental health. And we don't, I have a doctorate, I got my master's in mental health counseling, and I've never taken a class on nutrition in all of my 10 years of college that I went to, because it has just never been a part of the mental health conversation. And that is one thing that needs to be more a part of the conversation, because it goes so hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where do you think we are today? I mean, if you read the headlines and you try to keep up with some of the latest studies, the trends aren't very good, but that's just that. It's headlines and some studies here or there anecdotally, and of course the fear headlines appear to get the most clicks for whatever reason. I guess it's this psychological factor. But practically speaking, taking the emotions and what gets the most attention with the media and clicks and social media out of the equation, we've been seeing this trend that Dr. George Barna and others have been affirming, and this trend away from Christianity towards more secular mentality, atheism or agnosticism, etc. And so we've been seeing that from a religious standpoint. Are you also seeing a trend of people just being worse off, broadly speaking? More people aren't doing well, I guess is what I'm looking at. Is that true, or is that not necessarily the case?
Oh yeah, it's for sure true that we're reporting the worst mental health outcomes ever. And some people might say, okay, the younger generation especially, so like Gen Z, right? Like 15 to 23-year-olds are reporting the most stress, the most loneliness as well, and just kind of the lowest energy and the worst just mental health outcomes in general. Some people say that they're more willing to report though than older generations. But yeah, I think that those two things are definitely connected.
Let's step on some toes before I let you go. And if you're familiar with our work and my show, we don't hesitate to cover different subjects that may step on toes, and maybe step on my own, who knows. But you alluded to it, and that is the antidepressants or the pills, right? I want to preface this with the fact that everybody's circumstance is different, right? Some people have more severe issues than others. But I think we can talk about this, Dr. Jennifer, in a way that is appropriate and helpful to people. What I observe, and then I want to get your feedback. I observe that the antidepressant medication is very liberally given. People come in to a doctor and they've had a bad day or a bad week. This is not a 6-month or 2-year struggle that they've been going through, but they get a quick prescription, and then boom, before you know it, they're on some type of pharmaceutical or some type of antidepressant, and it's part of their regular schedule now to take the pill. And if they get off it, what's going to happen? How's their body going to respond? Talk about this liberal use and liberal givingness of the antidepressant medication.
Sure, and that it is definitely utilized very widely, and again, especially with younger people. My sister's a nurse, and she said almost every young person that comes in, just for ER care, is on some sort of psychiatric medication. And a quick caveat, if you do have clinical depression, part of the diagnosis, you have to have the symptoms for 6 months. So that is kind of part of how it is diagnosed. But I think just our society in general wants a quick fix. Like, I want a pill to burn my belly fat now. I don't want to work out every day. I don't want to deal with my grief or my sadness or my adjusting to children or to changes. I just want it gone. And I feel like just this immediate gratification culture of, I don't even want to get fast food. I want to get DoorDash. I'm not even going to go to a fast food place anymore, which kind of blows my mind. But we just have zero. I think social media has really painted a picture that suffering is abnormal, and discomfort, we need to avoid it at all costs. We can't be bored. We can't be awkward in social situations. We have to look at our phones if we're in a waiting room, if we're sitting before class. Like, I teach a class of 80 students, and before I walk in, it's like you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Everyone is looking at their phone. 0 people are talking. And I think, and I don't mean to shame the younger generations, but I really think that speaks to this cultural idea that we can't handle discomfort. And I think that's part of it with mental health, is that we don't believe that suffering is normal. So if we feel it, there's something wrong with us, and we need to have it fixed immediately. And doctors have like 5 minutes with each patient. So if the patient gets what they want, they're happy. And I do think it is more complicated to, work on your well-being than just medication and therapy even, which is what I was taught in grad school. And I think I do believe that therapy has benefits, but I think it's a whole, there's multiple determinants of health.
Sure.
And there's a whole spiritual component that needs to be worked on as well.
Yeah.
But you're right. And it's not a perfect science with antidepressants either.
Yeah, and I'm not throwing the doctors and the physicians under the bus, because, like you said, they've got a few minutes with these patients. They might see them every 6 months to a year. So the doctors shouldn't be put in this position where they're like Mr. and Miss Fix-It-All. But that the liberal use of these medications is very prevalent in our society. But under all of this, to your point, is a spiritual dynamic which you address in the book, and that is all of our hearts hunger for God. We hunger for deeper purpose. So encourage those real quick before we let you go. We got about a minute left. Provide a little bit of encouragement of people who struggle with mental health and wellness, and then point people to your book.
Sure. I think one of the biggest things is if you are suffering, if you're dealing with symptoms of anxiety or stress or overwhelm or sadness, isolation, just to know that you're not alone, that it's okay to feel these feelings and it's okay to share them. I think especially a lot of Christians just bottle them in, and they don't want to be a burden to other people, and they kind of think that other people have it worse, so they shouldn't feel this way. And the book really addresses all of those things. It also has some areas that you can write in some self-reflection, and I think that's really important too. And if you are interested in picking up a copy, I know some people are giving it as gifts, which I think is cool. There's a book club at my church who's giving it to all their kids and grandkids, but you can find it at timeofgrace.org.
All right, timeofgrace.org. The name of the book is A Guide to Mental and Emotional Wellness, Biblical Wisdom, Practical Principle, and Clinical Insight. We've been talking to Dr. Jennifer Longren. Hey, Dr. Jennifer, thanks so much for coming on the program and talking about this very important topic.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Timeofgrace.org is that URL, timeofgrace.org. We've linked to it over at the podcast page, and you can order that book there. Very important topic. A lot of people deal with this, and it needs to be addressed from a biblical perspective, which is what we just did right there. We'll be back in a few.
The loss of a child through abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth affects the emotional health of families. Feelings of anger, sadness, and regret can be overwhelming. There is hope and healing in the aftermath of a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline at 866-482-LIFE to talk with someone who has been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIFE.
AFR programming is now available on Alexa.
You're joking, right?
Nope, not joking.
Seriously?
Yep, this is not a drill.
Wait a minute. No way.
There's a way. The Alexa way. So if you just happen to miss your favorite shows, no worries. You can now listen to each podcast with Alexa. It's simple and it's free. Just visit afr.net/apps and click Alexa. We're not joking. So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for health care. And here's why. Not only is it open enrollment for a lot of people, it's also a time you can join Medi-Share and save even more than usual. For many families, switching to Medi-Share saves about $500 a month, which is a game changer for a lot of people. But what's more, they like it. Medi-Share has double the member satisfaction rate compared to health insurance. Double. Medi-Share is a proven thing, too. For over 30 years, it's a Christian community of more than 400,000 members. And here's the thing, too. If you join before December 15th and you mention the promo code SHARE, you'll get another $150 savings. So I'll give you the number here in a second, but just call. You'll get a price within 2 minutes. And remember, the deadline is December 15th. So call now and you'll save
when Chris is out on vacation or for other reasons, we bring in Fred Jackson, the director there, to bring us the news of the week. Hey, Fred, welcome back to the program.
Walker, great to be with you.
Well, Fred, you and I think we talked about this last time you were on, but this obviously this war in Israel is ongoing. Surprisingly, we're headed near the 2-month mark. Early December will be 2 months. It seems like a week ago that this whole conflict began. Israel, just to give people kind of a little bit of update, and then we'll jump into what's going on domestically. Israel, the military has taken over much of northern Gaza. They have control over all of northern Gaza, even though there's some skirmishes here and there, which they did it in a couple weeks, which was very impressive. And many people thought it might take them months to take over northern Gaza. And so they're at this point, Fred, where there's been a ceasefire for the last week or so here, kind of sporadically. Hostages are being released. Palestinian or Hamas prisoners are being released from Israel, and there's these trades going on. Netanyahu says when the hostages are released and the truce is done, or the ceasefire, they're going back in and continuing their operations, and he's even said they're going into the south. Who knows if that'll happen? That's a big step. But in Oakland, California, this topic came up, and kind of give us the context here.
Yeah, one of the things that has, I think, shocked a lot of Americans, Walker, is how quickly the American public, or segments of the American public, moved from feeling somewhat sorry for Israel to painting Israel as the bad guy. And somehow Hamas was justified in that massacre of October 7th. And an example of this we're going to talk about is what happened this week at an Oakland City, California city council meeting. And they, like several other cities in America, unfortunately, wanted a resolution, and the resolution called for a permanent ceasefire. Now, a permanent ceasefire basically would mean Israel putting up the white flag. That's how to translate it, because Hamas would just form again. We'd be at this once again.
Yeah.
So there was an alderman at Oakland City Council who wanted an amendment to that resolution. And the amendment simply said we ought to condemn Hamas for what they did. Well, that amendment was defeated by a 6-2 vote. So there were 6 counselors who did not feel that Hamas should be condemned. At the hearing that was held on this resolution, and we're going to play you a segment of the people who approached the microphone. These are presumably citizens of Oakland, California, United States of America. And I want you to hear what some of them said about Hamas and against Israel.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
I support the right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance. As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
The notion that this was a massacre of Jews is a fabricated narrative. Many of those killed on October 7th,
Your time is up.
including children, were killed by the IDF. An amendment condemning Hamas is bald propaganda meant to...
Thank you. Your time is up.
To hear them complain about Hamas violence is like listening to a wife